Welcome to our corrections for our Unit 1 assessment. I'm going to be showing you how to correct your problems for our questions. We're going to start with number 1. So on the test there are 15 questions, but I decided to only count numbers 1 through 10. So if you're doing corrections, then you are doing corrections on questions 1 through 10. Within that, number 4 is one that we are going to omit, which means you skip it. And then number 5 is being used as a bonus. So I will not go over how to answer number 5. That's going to be one that you're going to have to answer on your own. So there are 8 questions that you could possibly have to correct. You will know that you have to correct it if 2 things. If it is circled in blue, and if it has a slash mark of any color through it, such as that. Now, if you see a problem that is circled in blue, and let's say it was originally graded with a red pen, so it has a slash. There are some that I found when I went back through had correct answers, and the answer key was not correct. So you might see a pink OK written on top of it. If you see that, then your question, your answer is correct. So you don't have to worry about correcting that. But let's go over how to work these. So for number 1, it says the tile floor in a restaurant is being replaced. The dimensions of the floor are shown. What is the total area excuse me, of the new tile floor in the restaurant? So here's the tile and the floor, and they want to know the total area of the new tile floor. So this is what I like to tell the students. This is not a nice shape. Nice shapes have a area formula that you follow, and they cooperate very nicely, and you don't have to figure out a lot. You just either do length times width or base times height, or if you're talking about a triangle, half of the base times the height. This is not one of those shapes, so it doesn't follow one of our formula rules. So we have to decompose it. We've got to break it down, and we've got to make it fit into those area formula rules that we have. So we can break this shape into a triangle and a rectangle. Well, this rectangle right here, the area of a rectangle is length times width. We have a length of 12 and a width of 15. So we are multiplying 12 times 15. Once we do that, then we take a look at our triangle here, and we'll shade it in blue. All right. So for our triangle, we need the distance from here to here. Well, we already used this space right here. If we look at the opposite side of that rectangle, then that was 12. So if we take our 20 and subtract 12, that leaves us with 8 for our length of our base. Then we have to find our height. And if you remember from talking about triangles and finding area of triangles, your base and your height have to be perpendicular. They have to form that little right angle. So we're not going to be multiplying 8 times 17 because 17 does not form a right angle with the 8. But if we look at this side here and we go to the opposite over here, we see that it is 15. So the area of a triangle equals 1/2 of the base times the height. So when we do that, we have a base of 8 and we have a height of 15, because that is the side that forms a right angle with our base. So when you're finding this, you want to find what 12 times 15 is. Then you want to find what this is going to equal. So you want to multiply 8 times 15 and then divide that by 2. You will get the area of your rectangle and the area of your triangle. You want to add those together. So again, you want to find the area of your rectangle, find the area of your triangle, and add them together to give you your total area. So that is how we find the area of a shape when it is not a parallelogram or a triangle. That brings us to number 2. On number 2, we have an equation. And in this equation, or it's not, excuse me, it's not an equation, it's an expression. It does not have our equal sign, right? So we have 8d to the third power plus 16e to the second power divided by f minus 2. Now, it sounds like a lot, and I get it. That can be intimidating. But when we have an expression like this, and then we are given values for those letters, remember, are called variables. They're unknown. Now they're telling you, we know what those letters are, so plug them in. All right, so we're going to have 8d to the third power. Well, d is 4, so I want 4 to the third power plus 16 e to the second power. Well, e is 2, so I want 2 to the second power. Divided by f. F is 8 minus 2. After we have put in our values, then we are following GEMS or PEMDAS, whichever one you use for order of operations. There are no groupings. However, there are exponents. Exponents are these little numbers here up above here. And what it does is it tells us how many times to multiply the base. The base in this case would be 4. So this is really 4 times 4 times 4. And if we were to multiply that, we would get 64. I bring down the other parts of my expression. Then I have 2 squared. Well, this 2 tells me that I'm going to take the base and multiply it twice. So this is 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So now we have 16. And then we bring down the rest of our expression. So now that we have this, we are done with our exponents, and now we multiply or divide from left to right. Well, we have multiplication here, so we're going to multiply 8 times 64. And when you do that, I do believe you get 512. You might have to check my math on that one. Plus, you can go ahead and multiply here, okay? So 16 times 4, that's going to be 64. And then you bring down the rest of your expression. Now, we are not done with multiplying and dividing. You have to multiply and divide before you add or subtract. So you get 64 divided by 8. Well, that's going to give us 8. So now we have 512 plus 8 minus 2. Now, this is another thing where it matters the order. If you subtract 8 minus 2 first, you have done this in the correct order and will get the wrong answer. Our order of operations says we do subtract or add next, but it's whichever comes first if you're moving from the left side of your expression to the right. So if I'm moving from the left to the right, I need to add 512 plus 8 first. Well, that gives me 520, correct? And then I need to subtract 2, and that will give me my final correct answer for number 2. So that is how we work questions number 1 and 2. Let's take a look at question number 3. Question number 3 does talk about surface area. However, it doesn't give you a shape. It gives you an expression. And it says if you follow that expression, then you are going to find the surface area of this particular shape. So we have an expression here. We have 2s squared, or s to the second power, plus 4sh. All right? So we're going to plug in some numbers here. It says a square prism has a base with edges that are 12 centimeters long, so that's our length. And it says to find the surface area of the square prism, length is s and height is h. So where we have s, we're going to plug in 12. So s squared plus 4, s is 12, and then height of 15. So our height is 15. When we have letters, variables next to each other like that, we are multiplying those. So now we're just following our order of operations, our GEMS. We do have grouping here, so we will do 12 times 15 first and get an answer. All right. Then you want to bring down the other parts of your expression. Now you want to do your exponents, which in this case is going to be 12 squared. So you will have 2 times whatever 12 squared is, plus 4 times whatever 12 times 15 was. From there, you're going to multiply and then add. So that is how you would work number 3. I don't want to give too much of the answer away on your corrections here, but that is how you work it. So plug in your numbers and then follow your order of operations. The biggest mistake I've been seeing on this one is, one, they didn't understand where to plug in the numbers, what they were meaning, and then the other is not following that order of operations fully. So number 4, we are omitting. You'll see that word on your paper, so don't worry about that one. And then number 5 is a bonus question. So if you didn't answer it the first time, maybe try it out. Just make sure you write it on your separate page with your corrections. And if you did try it, and you want to try to elaborate on your answer or maybe add more to it, you could definitely do that. Again, just make sure that you include it on your corrections page. I realize now that I did not say that at the beginning of this video. I covered it in class, but any corrections you do on this, you do need to make sure that you do them on a separate piece of paper and then hand back the test and the corrections that you have done. Okay, number 6, Mia cuts out the net shown and folds it to make a 3-dimensional shape. Which 3-dimensional shape does Mia make? So we have some triangles and we have a square. If you remember when we were talking about 3-dimensional shapes, we went over all of the nets for the 3-dimensional shapes. We got out 3-dimensional shapes. We messed around with them and opened up their nets to see what they looked like, identified them. We even did another activity during focus time where we took nets and built them in groups and then sorted them. So this is a net. When you fold it, it will make a 3-dimensional shape. Now, if you remember anything about nets, when we talked about them, when they have a lot of triangles like this, we're not talking about a prism. We're going to be looking at pyramids. So we have either a square pyramid or a triangular pyramid. And in this case, the base is a square. So the fact that it's not all triangles tells me that this is a square pyramid. So we have a square pyramid on number 6. So the answer there is B. Number 7 is surface area. So surface area is where we are going to find the area of each surface. So 3-dimensional objects, they have more than one surface. They have more than one face. So this particular 3-dimensional object, let's call this the front. Okay, so we have the front of our shape, and on the front of our shape, we have a rectangle. And rectangles, the area of a rectangle is length times width. In fact, all of the faces on this are going to be length times width for a rectangle because it is a rectangular prism. So we have a rectangle on the front here, and we have an 8 by this side right here. Well, if we go across to the opposite, we see that it is 5.5 inches. So we have 8 times 5.5 inches, right? Now, this front side is also going to match the back side. So the front and the back have the same area, so we want to multiply it times 2. Then let's take a look at our side pieces. So we have our left side and our right side. Again, we have rectangles here, and we have a length of 3, and then we have a width of 5.5. So 3 times 5.5. And the left side and the right side are going to have the same area in this particular shape, so we're multiplying it times 2. Which brings us to our final 2 pieces, the top and the bottom. So the top has a length right here. If we go to the opposite side, we will find that it is 8. So we have a length of 8 times our width, which is right here on this piece. And if we go to the opposite side, we will see that it is 3. So we have an 8 by 3 rectangle. Again, top and bottom are the same, so we're going to multiply it times 2. So you're going to do each of those operations. Once you get those and add them together, that will give you your total surface area. So you want to do 8 times 5.5, multiply it times 2. Put that answer here. You want to do 3 times 5.5, multiply it times 2, put that answer there. 8 times 3, multiply it times 2, put that answer here, and add them all together for your final solution. So that is how we do number 7. All right, number 8. Domingo has a sack of B bananas. He adds 20 bananas to the sack, then he shares all the bananas equally among 3 coworkers. Write an expression that represents the number of bananas each coworker receives, and be sure to show your work. So we have a sack of bananas, so that's represented with B. Adds 20 to the sack, so bananas plus 20. Then, when we see then, we know that this other operation has to come first. So we put parentheses around it. So then he shares all the bananas equally among 3 coworkers. So if I have bananas, I don't know how many, and I'm sharing them with 3 people, then I am dividing my bananas among my friends. So I'm putting them into 3 groups. So you want we want B plus 20 to come first, then divide by 3. There's different ways for you to write this, and these are the different ways that you could write it. Or you could even do B plus 20 divided by 3. So all kinds of ways that you can write your answer to that, but that is the expression. And since it said write an expression and not evaluate, that's as far as you go with that problem. You're not evaluating to find a solution. Which brings us to number 9 and number 10. So number 9 says, what is the value of the expression d to the 4th power plus 125 when d equals 4? So we have d to the 4th power plus 125, right? So hold on just one moment. Sorry about that. There was an announcement over the school intercom. So we have d to the 4th power plus 125 when d is equal to 4. So 4 to the 4th power plus 125. Now, you're going to follow your order of operations, groupings, exponents, multiply, divide, subtract, or add. We don't have groupings. We do have exponents. We have this 4 to the 4th power. This means 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. All right, so you're multiplying 4 times. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Now, that is not 4 times 4 like 16. That's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, which is going to give you something different. If you remember earlier from a problem we had earlier, I will tell you that 4 to the 3rd power is 64. So then you've just got to do 64 times 4. And then don't forget to add your 125. So figure out what 64 times 4 is, and then add 125 to that, and you will get your correct answer for number 9. That brings us to number 10. Number 10 is the least common multiple between 12 and 18. Most common mistake with this one is the students found the greatest common factor. Factors are what we multiply together to get to these numbers. So I don't want to look at this and say, oh, 2 times 6 is 12, so that goes in my list. If we're doing multiples, then it's like, I tell the students, like, skip counting by that number. So we would start with 12. Well, 2 12s is 24. 3 12s is 36. 4 12s is 48. Okay? So then I want to do the same thing with 18. One group of 18 is 18. 2 groups of 18. Now, let's say I didn't know that. So I always tell the students, come over to the side here. Let's say 18 times 2, right? 2 times 8 is 16. 6 carry your 1. 2 times 1 is 1 plus the 1 would be 36, right? I can stop right there because I have found the smallest number that is the same. That is the least common multiple. The smallest, the least common, the same multiple. All right, so we have 36 as our answer here for number 10. If you would like to do corrections on the other questions on the test, you are welcome to do that. For most of the other questions, I found that especially with the multiple select questions, that students were marking some of the correct answers, but not necessarily all of the correct answers. So if you would like to do corrections on 11 through 15, you are welcome to, but those will not be graded or counted in the grading for this. And if you have questions about 11 through 15, because you want to do that extra practice, then please come and see me and ask those questions. I hope this video is helpful for you. If you have any further questions, I am available during my lunch period. I also can do, a little bit of Zoom or whatever if you need to, especially since it's towards the end of the 9 weeks, to help you get this accomplished and get corrections done and turned in on time. All right. So I hope you guys have a good afternoon.